to bring in Jim Messina now. Jim, of course, a White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations under former President Obama. He was also campaign manager for President Obama's 2012 re-election campaign. Mr. Messina, always good to have you. Let's start with this American Families Plan. $1.8 trillion is what we're being told. Pre-K, universal, 2 years of free community college, all paid for by raising taxes on individuals that make at least $400,000. President just passing the COVID relief package. He's unveiled that $2 trillion infrastructure plan. How does the president, how does the administration start to sell the idea of $6 trillion in spending in the first 100 days?
Well, Craig, they're going to be very specific about what's in this plan, because what's in this plan is incredibly popular things. Childcare, pre-K education, a child tax credit. These are all things that pull in the high 70s and 80s. They are very, very popular. And so they're going to want to be very specific about what's in this plan, because these things are just, political layups for the president and his team to talk about. And so as we look at selling this thing, usually they're going to try to sell the overall number. Not in this case. In this case, they're going to be very specific about what's in this plan and what it does for normal voters. And it's coming at a time with real strength for the president. His approval rating is very strong for this point in his presidency compared to other presidents. And you have a White House who's functioning very well, and they're at full strength as they go to sell this next piece of very popular legislation.
You mentioned the president's approval, and in our latest poll, it's about 53%. Jim, how does he walk this fine line in using his political capital while these massive packages, especially when his approval is not as high as President Obama's was at the 100-day mark, or even President George W. Bush?
Well, look, they're looking at that independent number you just showed, Craig. 61% of independents support the president right now. And that is a really high number. And that is indicative of how the midterm elections will go as well. We know that the president's approval rating with independents is incredibly important. So they're going to watch that number very, very closely. And again, they're going to try to sell the pieces of this plan that are wildly popular. You just don't get much more popular than pre-K, than childcare, than expanding tax credits for families with children. Those things are just really popular, and so they'll really stay focused on that.
Jim, is the president making a bet here that people's views of the role of government have changed at all because of this pandemic? Has the president decided that big government is capable of doing big things again? Is that what we're seeing in these proposals?
No, what I think the country's decided the government has a role here, right? I just saw numbers this morning that that support for government being involved in some of these things has gone up over 10 points in 10 years. We just went through going through a COVID challenge where we saw how important government is. And so what President Biden is doing is saying, look, there's some other ways that the government can be helpful. We don't want big brother. We don't want too much government here. But there's some ways we all agree are incredibly important to our future. And that includes childcare. That includes pre-K. That includes community college. And so those things are really important and have really big support. But I don't think you're going to see Biden make an overall case for bigger government.
My colleague Sahil Kapoor, he dug into the different route your old boss, former President Obama, took to passing economic stimulus, and how President Biden is trying to avoid some of the same landmines that President Obama ran into. This paragraph in particular jumped out, Jim. He wrote, quote, "While Obama pared back his stimulus to win Republican votes, Biden met with Republicans once before he opted for a special process to go it alone. While conservative deficit hawks reined in Obama, Biden has brushed them off. While Obama was hesitant to brag about his achievements, Biden's team regularly takes credit for the receding pandemic." Do you agree with that assessment, Jim?
Not completely, but what I do agree on is this is a White House who understands that we need to sell some of these accomplishments. It understands that one of the things that we could have done better, and I'm part of this, in the first 4 years is sell what we did. And this is an administration who was part of that. Vice President Biden was there for every step of that road. Now he's the president, and he's going to make sure that he continues to message the American electorate about what he's doing and why. That conversation is incredibly important. And so they're really focused on getting that piece right. And I think they're right to do it. And they have a really talented group of political veterans in the White House who understand this and aren't going to take their eye off the ball.
Jim Messina for us on this Wednesday morning. Jim, thanks as always, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.